I was like, I don't want to hear none of this bullshit Biggie shit. Yeah. So no, I dismissed Biggie for at least a good year.
That's crazy. That's crazy that you once said like, I don't want to hear this Biggie shit. Not realizing that like
this is an iconic album.
It wasn't just me, believe it.
No, I know.
It was a crew of us.
That's
like,
what I
no,
I believe it.
No, it's on the radio. We're not trying to hear this shit.
Then in hip hop, iconic album review, the Notorious B.I.G. Ready to Die. So obviously, if you fuck with that in hip hop, you already know we did this about 3 years ago. But we're gonna revisit it because this is definitely one of those albums that, beginning to end, not skippable, definitely changed hip hop.
I want to ask you guys this because this kind of crept into my head when I was kind of just listening to it. Is this a perfect hip hop album?
No.
In terms of mainstream appeal with the 2 big songs and then underground, lyrical, hardcore hip hop.
Yes, for that time, yes.
If you think about just the ability to blend those 2 elements together, like it's almost like the perfect formula.
And even Biggie himself, right? Like you're talking about a super big dude, super dark. Most people wouldn't say
have the sex appeal.
Yeah, it doesn't have the sex appeal, but he makes this music that creates a sexy environment, right? Like Big Papa. You know what I'm saying? Like he was able to do that. So to your question, I think that the formula and the execution, I think you have to almost put it there. Because realistically, right? Like if I'm looking at
respected with hip hop is, and it was respected on a mainstream
level,
like,
all of that. Like the formula was spot on. Diddy knew exactly what he was doing with Biggie. It's not like he had to dilute the content. You know what I'm saying? You still got Warning, Ready to Die, Machine Gun Kelly, Give Me the Loot. You still got that hardcore stuff, but you also he was able to break it down and be this bigger than life player and you know, this ladies man. And obviously through his lyrics, we knew he was. Even though maybe he didn't look the part, but shit, when he got up there with the big old, he sold it with the cane. You know what I'm saying? Like he was smooth, and you wouldn't necessarily equate somebody that big to being smooth. And Biggie was extremely smooth.
So what made this album important? I guess like to you, like what made it important in your opinion?
You know, like I rewatched our review, and for me, you know, like I always say, like I got to hip hop late, and this album was the last Biggie album I listened to because I kind of went backwards, you know. So for me, at the time, it didn't necessarily have any importance, but today, when I look back at it and what I think that it did for hip hop, it was that it gave birth to commercial hip hop.
It kicked off Bad Boy. It kicked off a formula that a lot of people tried to follow. So
including Nas, Jay-Z, all of them.
Yeah, like
all going for that format.
Yeah, because they saw that it worked with Biggie, but you know, some of them didn't have Diddy, right?
Yes, so, no, you're right. Some of them didn't have Diddy. Some of them didn't have Diddy.
So the Locks had Diddy. So what happened? You know,
and there was a backlash. Remember, to them doing that. And remember when they left, they were like, no more shiny suits.
Right, yeah.
But see, they were different because they already had albums and music out before that.
Oh, okay,
so it was
like
looked at as a change.
Yeah.
Biggie came out the gate like that.
Right.
A lot of hip hop artists at that time, they couldn't find that mixture. They couldn't find that blend.
And you gotta get the sequencing right. You gotta put those songs in like the right spot, or it'll feel out of place and it'll feel forced.
You know, like recent time I listened to it, I'm like, damn, okay, it's called Ready to Die. The last track is freaking Suicidal Thoughts. I almost feel like, is it like a concept of him being ready to die and commit suicide on himself? Because, you know, there's a lot of darkness on this album, you know, and him talking about, you know, coming out the street life and moms having cancer and stuff and possibly dying, and, you know, just all types of in and outs that he was going through. And I just feel like life was overbearing Biggie, and that's what ended up being Suicide Thoughts was still like one of the like best tracks on the damn album. But yeah, it, like as I, you know, just listened to it, I listened to it recently, but just thinking back, like, damn, was this like a set, like, was this a concept album and we just didn't know it? You know, you listen to Warning, Ready to Die, the title track, just everyday struggle. It's just like
What's the intro track?
things unchanged.
Yeah.
Things unchanged. And it just seems like, I feel like, is it a setup? Was
And that
it
was
a
his
concept
birth that
album?
went from his
Yeah,
birth.
yeah.
Like, was this a concept album and we didn't know it? You know what I'm saying? So it makes me think about that. Like, the more I think about this album, I'm like,
I never thought
damn.
about that.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, was that a setup?
When you think about things done changed, like and the intro, like sometimes when I put it on, I'm like, okay, I don't really need to hear the intro, but it also
It sets it up so.
yeah, it doesn't. Then I was gonna ask, like, it doesn't feel like that song would
perfect opening
hit
credits.
right without that intro, because
Right.
that intro of him, you know, getting out of being born, getting out of jail, doing this, that, and other, and then that track, yeah, that track hit, I'm like, oh my god, like it's
Remember
the
back in the
perfect.
days when you
It's almost like a movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the perfect setup. It's the perfect setup. So you can't. It's almost hard to listen to one without the other.
Right.
You know, and again, that's hard to do when you think about an intro that's over a minute long.
But see, I think back in the day, people used to put thoughts into intros and the way the album come on. Like,
even skit,
you know what I'm saying?
right. Even
Yeah.
skits and interludes, people put thoughts in those, and it blended in with the album.
Do you think does it have like almost a timeless sound to it, or does it sound dated?
It doesn't sound dated.
Nah, it doesn't sound good.
Easy Mo B is definitely an unsung hero throughout this album. It's amazing how I don't hear like people wanting beats from him or like wanting production from him no more. Cause Easy Mo B made some magical stuff, and he was like, to me, he was an unsung hero. He gave Biggie a great sound for Ready to Die, man. Like throughout this whole album, Warning, freaking Friend of Mine, Ready to Die.
Did he do Give Me the Loot? Did he do the beat on that song?
Yes, he did. He did Give Me a
love
Loot.
that.
That's what I'm saying. Like
love that.
Mo B was the unsung, and no disrespect to Primo, because even Primo did Unbelievable. That was one track, and Lord Finesse did Suicidal Thoughts. So yeah, I mean, other than that, Mo B, man, what?
He was killing the shit. that Ready to Die.
Yeah, I know he was. Man, when I play it, I don't be like, oh yeah, this is 1994.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't sound like
you don't. It don't sound like okay, yeah, this is a '94 album. Like it doesn't sound like it's.
I mean, let's not take away from the lyricism and stuff. I mean, that's not like a dated rhyme scheme.
Yeah,
or
and that's what I was
rhyme
gonna
style,
say.
you know what I mean?
Biggie has a big part to do with that. It's not just the production not sounding dated. Like it doesn't sound 2017, but it doesn't necessarily sound like super old either.
I don't know about that.
What the
I don't know
production?
about that. I think the production is a good 80% of why this album doesn't sound dated. Because you look at a Rakim album, they sound dated, and Rakim is spitting his ass off, the whole thing, flows, everything. Coogee rap albums to a degree, some of them sound dated, and you're not gonna tell me Coogee rap didn't have flow. I think a lot of that. I think B is 100% correct. That production, I think if Biggie had gone to anybody else, I don't think this album would have been as special. Because it would just been another album where dudes are rapping really well.
I'm not trying to take away from the production. I'm not trying to take away from the production at all. I'm just saying that Biggie is I think equal to the production, if not more. For me, it was Biggie and how he painted these pictures, man. Like I feel like you could take a Biggie verse now and put it over a 2017 type beat, and it sounds great. You know what I'm saying? So either way, and I think that you could take some of these beats and get a newer artist to go over it, and it would still sound
But
great.
if you took Biggie and put him over
old school,
it would not be the same. That's the point. It had. I know what you're saying, but he had to have that special producer to make this album work, and I think that's why it doesn't sound dated. Because shit, if you took Rakim's verses and put them over this production, it would have been like, oh, okay, I can listen to this in 2017 and not feel weird.
So let me. All right, wait. All right, so let me combat that a little bit. So.
Not that I'm shitting on Eric B.
No.
I thought of that. Hold on, before anybody jump on me. Eric B
I know
was
you're
the
not shitting
shit.
on Eric B. I'm more so thinking about the putting Biggie on some older sounding tracks is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
So who's the artist now that raps over old, like Joey Badass, right? No. So who else can we say
that raps over old?
Because I thought
Joey Badass used to.
Right.
I thought we said, but that's what I'm saying. I thought we said Joey Badass gives us like an old. Early
used to.
Right, so I'm saying you put Biggie over some of that 1999 stuff, you saying that it would sound dated.
But 1999 was old production.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm saying,
but it was Biggie era production. It wasn't like.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So put him on
like NWA. Remember we were talking about how that shit sounds dated. put him over some fucking, even though it's a different coast, doesn't matter.
What I was gonna say, yeah.
But
So,
if you put him over some shit that Dre was doing, yeah, it would sound dated. Like the rhyming would still be like, damn, this dude is rapping.
Ice Cube would still be speaking.
You know, but it's like, but the sound, the overall sound just doesn't hold up in 2017.
So okay, all right, let's put it with the group that you said. You said Eric B and Rakim. So you saying you put Biggie on that, it'll sound dated?
Yes.
Because of the production. The production that they were rapping over.
Yeah, but see, I think the difference is that Eric B and Rakim, they were really rhyming. Whereas Biggie kind of had like a good balance. So if you put Biggie over Eric B and Rakim production, I don't think it'll sound as dated.
I think Biggie's rhyme scheme is flow. I think is accessible.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
To a lot of
Eric B and Rakim isn't accessible.
Probably not to a lot of underground. I don't think even though their singles were
what are you
popping,
talking about right
but
now? Y'all lost.
I think there's a point to what Rod is saying. Like the way that he was rhyming at the time was so different that it just completely changed the way people approach rhyming.
Right. Was it that different?
It was from Eric B and Rakim.
Was the way okay? But you're different from what then? So what are we talking about? Because was Biggie really rapping that differently than G-Rap was? If you really think about on a flow level,
and I've said
exactly.
That plenty of times.
So,
but I guess what I'm saying is, to Rod's point, I think there's something to the way Biggie sounds. Maybe the sound of his voice. Maybe the way his
inflections and all that. Like it's just different from a
made him a little bit. But again, I guess it goes back to the production. Combined with the production, it just sounds way more accessible than a Cool G rap would.
Because of the production, but it's not the rapping. If you took G-Rap and gave him these Easy Mo B beats, it would have sounded amazing. But G-Rap was not that type of rapper. He was like, I don't want those kind of beats.
To say 80's a little high for me. Like to say 75.
That 80.
It would have sounded good, but I don't know if it would have sounded because G-Rap would have made obviously different songs, but I don't know if it would have appealed. He would have killed it. No, wait, man. He would have killed it. He would have killed it. I understand he would have killed it, but I don't know if it would have appealed to people beyond those of us that like hip hop like that. But
why not? Why wouldn't it have? Because G-Rap could write these kinds of songs. It's just G-Rap didn't. Rakim, I get you. Rakim wasn't.
That's what I think
if you took Rakim's style and put him over those beats, it would have worked better, but it wouldn't have been Biggie.
Exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't have had that.
That's all I was saying.
But G-Rap definitely.
To me, like Diddy obviously had the formula because he created the formula, and he had a lot of other rappers that he can never recreate the success that he had with Biggie. Like, what's the reason? And obviously, even though he may not have signed other artists to Bad Boy, he still collaborated with a whole bunch of other artists. And I don't ever think that he was able to really recreate the synergy he had with Biggie. These songs in Biggie's career, like I don't think Diddy has ever had anything close to it again.
But you also have to recognize the beef, the East Coast, West Coast beef helped escalate. Like it brought a visibility to that most people outside of hip hop wouldn't know about.
And it made Biggie a martyr.
And I guess the last thing I'll say, when you listen to this album and you think about like the cultural impact, I think it kind of goes back to what you were saying, like the lines on here that just have become part of our everyday conversation. We need to make a point. You know, you get your friends, I get my friends, or you call your crew, I get my crew. You know, just all of that theme and slow singing, flower bringing.
If my burger alarm starts ringing. I love that shit. Man.
But yeah, just think about that. Like it's just something that we saying. Everybody knows what we're referencing.
Yeah, that's true. No matter the age at this point, like I feel like even most young kids would even know those references.
And the crazy thing is, just to add to it, the cultural. When I was in Toronto, like they would play Biggie, they would play Juice, and everybody was going nuts. So it was so crazy to see, everybody dancing to African music, soca, reggae, and then they'll go to their little hip hop, and then they'll bring in Biggie, and like the crowd was even more hyped rapping with Biggie than everything else of their own culture.
I had a quick question for you though, like because I know like a lot of times you say you didn't really pay attention to the mainstream, right? And Biggie was somewhat mainstream. So did you listen to it when it came out, or somebody had to tell you like?
No.
Okay.
I remember listening to it, and I might have said this in the review too.
Yeah.
But I remember listening to it. The first song I heard was "Give Me." I think it was "Give Me the Loot." That's the one where he's switching back and forth. And I remember thinking, because like Dell did something very similar with Unicron in one of his jams, and I remember being like, "Damn, that's crazy that Biggie is doing like this. Biggie guy's doing that." Because I mean, at my school, of course, Big Papa was really popular, and I was just like, I'm not trying to hear
Right, that's what I would think.
But that's because I hadn't heard the verses.
Okay.
All I heard were people walking around school. I love it when they call me Big Papa. Put your hands in the air. Use a true play. I'm like, okay, this sounds like some bullshit.
Right.
This is 14-year-old me. Yeah. I'm like, I want to hear this stupid shit. I want to hear, you know what I'm saying, dudes spitting where I could be like this the whole time. You know? Right, but no, I heard "Give Me the Loot." You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh shit. We're taking her to knockers and blocka. I was like, oh, that's this guy? That's this Biggie dude? I was like, okay, I need to go hear this shit. And I heard the album, but this is probably a year or two later.
That's what I'm saying.
Then it came out.
Okay, yeah.
So when I finally heard the album, I was like, I've been sleeping on this shit for two fucking years.
Wow. So you slept on it for 2 years.
I hadn't heard a single bit of it because that wasn't our shit. We were.
I know. That's what I was saying.
We were real I still am.
Yeah.
But we were worse then. If it's on the radio, we're not listening to it. I'm gonna fuck who it is. I'm not listening to it.
That's what I was getting to.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was after the album came out that I actually heard the album.
This album is iconic to me because in 2017, like Mike said, it does not sound dated. What Biggie was rapping about back then is relevant now. You know, you can still apply it to yourself. It gave hip hop a formula of commercial success. And to this day, people still try to follow it. And not everybody can execute it the way Biggie did 23 damn years ago. And that's crazy. That's crazy that this is where hip hop is gone. Multi-billion-dollar industry. And you know, he had one of the first blueprints. That in itself is extremely iconic to me.
Well, this album is iconic to me because, I mean, I think I said I'm like a broken record. But yeah, Biggie, he started a formula from within that 10 to 15 year stretch. A lot of rappers, especially street rappers, was trying to follow. You know, Easy Mo Beat production was like so next level for it to be mid 90s. Dropped clearly like one of the best albums in that year. To me, at that time in mainstream, it set a standard, man. It really set a standard for hip hop as far as if you were a lyricist, street lyricist coming into the game at that time. This is the format, or this was the foundation that was the beginning of the foundation. Like for you to pop off commercially as an artist, but still kind of keep your street credibility in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Biggie was the perfect because
it's an example of how it could be done.
How it could be done because, like I said, like me and Mike had mentioned, we had Coogee Rap. I mean, Coogee Rap, as amazing as he is, he didn't pop off like that commercially. Right. You know, I think Big L was on his way, but he just passed away. That's another one. You know, Big Pun, we saw that example. You're gonna see examples after that album came out of dudes that were street rappers that popped off. So Fat Joe,
and still kept their street credibility.
Still kept their street credibility. You know what I'm saying? So this is why this album is iconic, because it set the standard. And then plus it was just freaking amazing. The production was amazing. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think this was probably a concept album that we didn't know we was listening to this whole time.
I think it's an iconic album for a number of reasons, but the main one I want to talk about is something that Kim brought up, which is this is an album that it appeals to so many different groups. Like there's not that many rappers outside of Jay-Z that you will hear backpackers, street dudes, and mainstream people talk about all in the same conversation. Biggie, Nas, Jay. That's really the only three that come to mind. I mean, maybe now you have Kendrick, but I'm talking about throughout the 90s up until now. It was those three guys, and Pac. Those four people, really, that you could really bring up in that conversation. But Biggie is the main one. Like you will have the nerdiest of nerd rapping dork rappers will still tell you that Biggie, if not the greatest, he's one of the greatest. Right. Mainstream dudes will still say, well shit, Biggie's one of the best. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and I think for someone to be able to be that for 20 something years, and in 2017, off of 2 albums, and in 2017, still have it to where if somebody comes out their face and says anything about Biggie,
Right.
You have a problem.
Or try to put something above it.
Yeah.
Or trying to say you're the new Biggie, or you're better than Biggie.
Yeah.
You gonna have dudes with baseball bats, Timbs, and Pele jeans running up on your house in 2017.
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
This album is iconic because of, I think, the cultural impact that it still has 23 years later. And at any given moment, and I think one of you guys said this, probably Mike, you could just bring up a conversation about this album and people have just started going back and forth about it. Or you say something crazy, which tends to happen a lot on Twitter, and you get blasted. Right. It's a cherished, protected album. And in hip hop, where people look to hate everything, that's hard to do. And they had to get so many things right, and it just happened. You know, there was some intentionality there, but for the most part, they were just in there just trying to make good music. Whereas now they're just people. We go back to the formula where you're trying to manufacture the perfect album. They just did it. The one-liners that we get from it that you could just use in any given moment. I think that is what makes this album iconic.